Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, one of the fastest growing real estate investing podcasts in the world. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors? Find out what got them to where they are now. Get insight into their daily habits and take these insights to inspire your own growth. Each episode, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor and the founder of Streamline, a data-driven, investor-friendly, independent real estate brokerage located in Madison, New Jersey. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, this is the free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Thanks for showing up for another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. My guest today is a real estate investor, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and founder of Time Capital Bookkeeping and CFO Solutions. It's Max Emory, and he's going to tell you all about why bookkeeping is so important to your real estate investing foundation and continued success right now. This is episode 290 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Max Emory. Max is a bookkeeping firm entrepreneur, a real estate investing bookkeeping educator, and a real estate investor in his own right. His company is Time Capital Bookkeeping and CFO Solutions. Max, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. Super excited to be here.
Yeah, we were laughing it up in the pre-call because bookkeeping's such an interesting thing. Let's just start with that before we get into your background. Why does everybody think it's not as important as it is? And how long does it take until they realize, oops, and that's where you come in, I assume?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I have some stories I could tell you, like personal stories that we've experienced with clients, kind of where that exact thing happened. But yeah, it's I think most people think about it as just kind of this thing that's going to get done by your CPA maybe at the end of the year, and it's not that important. I really try to get people to see that it's the foundation for like the financial side of your business, right? Like everything starts with that bookkeeping. If that's not in place, tax strategy is tough to do, like cash flow management even is kind of tough to do without that in place. And so there's a, acquisitions, decisions, like that's our big thing is like decision ready financials to, make better decisions for real estate investors. And so man, that I guess missing out on opportunities is probably the biggest thing that I think people just don't think about. But yeah, man, it's one of those things where I think people think it's like just kind of like bean counting, like it's a super simple thing. Like I can just kind of let it go, or I can just hire maybe somebody who's not qualified to do it. But especially for the real estate investing world, like that's a myth.
Yeah. I would, and it applies to a lot of kind of numbers type, I would say like adjacent things, cost seg, all of these things where it's like you need experts in the game because as you're saying, which I think was really interesting, it actually helps them with future acquisitions and what you can do with your business. Because if not, you become the person that all of us have been at some time in a business where you're like, oh, I haven't done my books in a year and a half, but cash flow is okay. But wait, I don't actually have any cash flow. So what's going on? And then you realize, you have all these different things that you're putting out that you don't really need to be putting out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even, something that happened recently, even just something as simple as miscategorizing something, I had an investor come to us and prior to them being a client, just kind of, I do like a free diagnostic review for investors, just as a thing that I do. And like there were so many things that were miscategorized. It was like 50K worth of transactions over the couple of years that were miscategorized, and it inflated their taxable income. So they were paying a lot more in taxes than they should have been paying. And that was a incredibly simple bookkeeping mistake, right? And so that's something that like a bookkeeper who knows what they're doing and knows your industry, like they're going to catch stuff like that. And so, it roughly, 22% tax bracket ish for them, assuming, that's going to translate to like $11,000 back in their pocket that they shouldn't have paid, in taxes. So yeah, I mean, it's to your point, it's a lot more important than people think it is, especially in real estate.
Yeah. And I mean, year to year, I would think that having a good relationship with your bookkeeper and your bookkeeper having a good relationship with your accountant or someone who's doing the cost seg is really important, because some years you want to have that taxable income high because you're going to be extremely more lendable that way if you're looking to do more acquisitions. And then other years, you're going to use these deductions and things that you can find to reduce it. So you just don't have to pay as much taxes and you're not in acquisition mode. Am I right about that?
Yes, 1,000%. Yeah. Yeah, that is something that we kind of work with. And I say we, but like any bookkeeper that like knows what they're doing and serves real estate investors, like they're going to work with you on a kind of a yearly basis. And they, hopefully directly with your tax professional, so your advisor and also your filer, just to make sure we're kind of all synced up, all on the same page. Because there are so many little different things in the tax code that, as you know better than most people, that are super beneficial to real estate investors. There's a lot of stuff in there that we can play with. And so a lot of the categorizations that we make on the bookkeeping side, they can go either way. Do we want it on the balance sheet, or do we want it on the P&L through, something like the routine maintenance safe harbor or something like that, So there's a lot of things we can play with to get that taxable income up or down, depending on what your goals are. But I'm glad you said that, because I had another client probably 2 months ago before he came into our firm. Our goal was to maximize his taxable income so that he could qualify for financing. And so we took a different take on it.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I mean, I know from my own personal experience that when I don't use it, I'm thinking just what you said in the beginning. Oh, it's not that big a deal. Like, I just have one property. What's the big deal if I'm not tracking it? But then the more you get into it, you realize, wait, and of course, I've talked about this with CPAs and everyone who has anything to do with books. These are all rules. Nobody's like, trying to like push something under the rug. There's just smart strategies that you can take by being an expert in the areas to know, hey, does this qualify better as this or for this, like you're saying, which could save you 11K when maybe you need that 11K.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just to the bottom line, or maybe to, pour into a different property, or what have you. So, there's just so many cases like that. And I think the biggest disconnect, specifically for real estate investors, and myself included, I was an investor before I started this bookkeeping firm. So we think it's not that complicated, like if we're a landlord, we have our portfolio and it's like, oh, it's just, a little bit of money in and out each month. It's super straightforward. But once we actually start getting, like, once you have a professional like doing your bookkeeping, it's much more complex than you probably think. I think most people think just money in, money out, the cash flow aspect of it, but they're not really thinking about the full financial picture and kind of how that translates on the tax side as well come tax season, which is a huge pain point for investors. So
yeah, and much harder to clean everything up, when it's January 26th, then your accountant's like, I only have another week to look at your stuff. And you're like, well, I don't even have bookkeeping. As you're saying, a lot of people do think, hey, I'll just send it to my accountant. Like they're doing 90 different people's taxes. They don't really have time to do also all of your bookkeeping.
Yes. I'm so glad you spoke to that. Cause like, honestly, we're filming this episode like a good ways out from tax season. So like, now is the time to get kind of to get someone on your team who knows what they're doing, and to do this for you in a professional capacity. And if you don't have a tax pro, like I would probably get that first before January. If you're trying to do that in January, the best people that you can find, like they're not going to have capacity, like they're totally full.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's drop back on your real estate investing experience. When was the first time that you started to be interested just in real estate in general?
Yeah. So I didn't grow up around any people who did anything like that, right? Like most people, I would assume. And so, I was probably 26, 27 when I heard the term real estate investing or real estate investor. And
like as a thing, I always tell everyone,
as a thing.
Yeah. Because I grew up with a dad who was an investor, but we never called ourselves real estate investors. Like, he was an attorney, I was an attorney. We just did real estate. But now, like, everything has so much terminology, and especially because of your age, you probably happened upon something. Oh, wait, this is something. And it's also something you could do as a side hustle. Is that kind of how it fell into your lap?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. It was honestly Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so I was in the Marine Corps at the time. We were deployed out to the Pacific. We were on a Navy ship just out in the Pacific.
Ooh, got plenty of time for reading there.
Plenty of time. Especially on those late night watches. But yeah, so I took, so it was like a 6-month deployment. I took 2 books with me on that ship. One was How to Win Friends and Influence People. My granddad, recommended that one to me. He was a politician back in the day. And so he loved that book. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll give it a shot. The other one was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And so I read, the one I read on ship was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then it just like my brain just exploded, like I've never heard of anything like this. And so I started, whenever I could get access to internet, I started doing a ton of research, and then that kind of led me to Bigger Pockets and like other podcasts like yours. And then, books and all sorts of stuff. And so we were kind of based out of Okinawa, Japan at that time. And so once we got back and I got to like my barracks room and, I had my laptop and all that, then I started deep diving. I started connecting with realtors. Like I essentially took immediate action to start to get into that. And so I think it was 4 months later. I think I was back in the States for maybe like a month, and I closed on my first duplex. So.
Yeah, I'm laughing because so many of the veterans that I've had on the show, their reaction time to reading the book and then getting to the podcast and purchasing is so little. Like, because, you're used to this discipline routine, and then you're like, this sounds good, I'm going to do it. Were you in that mentality where like, this just seems right? And you went through vetting mechanisms to make sure, and you can see this community of Bigger Pockets, like all these people are doing, it can't all be fake. But seems like military, the ability to take action because of kind of the regimented way that you're doing wherever you are, whether you're deployed or you're in barracks, it's just everybody seems like, oh yeah, and I just bought one while I was deployed, or came home, bought one, and you did the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's embedded into the culture. There's there's just we call it violence of action, but it's like a bias towards action. It's like we have something we call the 70% solution whenever we would be planning things, and it's like, okay, if we have 70%, sometimes 30% of the information, like we're still going to execute. And so, so I just took that approach into the investing model. And to your point about other people doing this, and like, they're obviously successful at it, so why can't I be? I was very surprised on the amount of information I found on it to have never heard of it. It was like, where did this come from? And like, why haven't I been exposed to this? And so that gave me confidence too. I'm like, oh, wow, like there's books on this, there's forums, like people are coaching on this. And I was like, okay, I can create a plan for myself, and I know I'm going to execute. And so I just kind of move forward.
And I would actually say, like, I think back then it was like when Bigger Pockets first popped off, or even in the first 5 years, I think it was easier for people, because now there's so many people who are pitching and coursing and all this stuff that I think it's just harder in the TikTok age, with everything coming at them, because you have to do more vetting. At the time when Bigger Pockets was new or newish, everybody on there no one was selling anything. It was literally like a forum of all of us just like shooting around, stories about our past. And it was just so interesting to see how much you could help people, and new people come in and then take action because everything was viable in there.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the year they got bought out by private equity, but yeah, things definitely took kind of a turn after that. Could be good, could be bad. I'm not one to judge, but because I'm in Bigger Pockets.
There's just more people in there though over time, So
it's massive.
It's impossible to gatekeep the amount of accounts that people can make and what they're selling, now with AI, that there's just more stuff for people to look at. But what was the first property that you bought when you took action?
Yeah, so I started making offers so I'm originally from South Carolina. I was stationed in California, deployed to just the general Pacific region. And so even when I was still, once I got back to my barracks in Okinawa, I started making offers from there in South Carolina. So like coastal South Carolina, Myrtle Beach area, north, south, just looking at condos initially, kind of the short-term rental model. And this was back in 2019. So that's kind of when all this popped off for me.
Yeah.
And so, continued doing research over the next few months and then kind of settled on, I think I want to do small multifamily. I kind of got like the itch for that, and it seemed to resonate with what I was trying to build. And so, I connected actually via Bigger Pockets. I connected with like a super REI savvy realtor in the Columbia, South Carolina area, which is where I went to college at USC. He kind of walked me through that process, helped me out, connected me with a few other people, some PMs to interview, some contractors, all those sorts of people, lenders even. It was a duplex. I think I purchased it for like, $90K or something. It was an amazing deal. It already had tenants in it. I was going to run the BRRRR strategy on it. Yeah. And so that was my plan from the get-go. And so, I think I got back to the States in May of 2019, and I closed on that at, I think, August 1st-ish, 2019. So pretty quick turnaround.
Yeah, but I mean, especially important for newer investors to note, since of course, a lot of people are investing out of state, but you had a tie to the area. So when I tell people how to build a list of where to invest, I always say, first list is every place that you've ever lived or spent a lot of time. And the second list is where your best friends and family live. Put those lists together. You're probably in good shape there somewhere. And you actually did that because at least when you're looking even from afar, you at least, the area. It's a college town, you can see streets and like, oh, I've been on that street. So you have a little bit more of a competitive advantage doing it that way instead of just, picking a town in Illinois or something.
Definitely. Yeah. I like to tell people like, where do you have a competitive advantage? Like, which is essentially what you just said. And let's just start there. There may be something there may not, but let's just start there and just kind of see what we find. But super beneficial, outside of people you're paying, it's super beneficial to have a friend or a family member or somebody to say, hey, like, can you just pop over super fast and literally just drive by? And like, just like, tell me what you see, or maybe just do like a 10-second video or something and just send that to me. And, 9 times out of 10, like they're more than happy to do that. Right. So
it's fun.
It's fun. Yeah. Driving around, looking at new neighborhoods and stuff. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. And I think that, that then you have, like you were saying, you have a level of trust with someone who you're not paying to do something. PMs are always hit and miss in new areas. If they come from referrals, definitely better. But still, you're still learning how to manage a property and manage the manager of the property. But you give yourself a leg up when you at least know the area. I think that really helps. It's very hard to learn an area from afar if you really want to be an investor in that area.
Yeah, super hard. Yeah, you can only get so far with the Google Street View or whatever. It has its limitations. So you're
scrolling up the blocks. You're like, oh, I've gone through the whole town. I'm like, have you ever been there? No, I've never been there. Well, that could be like 2 years old. Everything that you're looking at. Oh, probably not a lot's changed. And then you realize, no, there's a condo development there. Everything has changed.
Yeah, and also, have you been there at night? Things look a little different at night.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and that's also assessing your own personal risk tolerance for what you're up for, what types of properties you want. Obviously, that first one for you, price point matched. I mean, a duplex for under 100 sounds great. Do you remember what your rents were that were coming in at the time when you bought it?
Oh yeah, it satisfied the 2% rule easily. Maybe like 2.5 or something like that.
Everyone's just crying right now because they're, I live in New Jersey. 0.65 is really sweet here. So.
Oh no. There's so many places like that now, and even in that same market now, it's gotten. Like everywhere, it's gotten way tighter on the margins. Like you're not going to find a 2%er anywhere. You'll be lucky to find a 1% rule property. So
yeah. Well, where'd you go from that first duplex? I mean, how was it running your first one? What did you learn from it, and what led to getting the next one into the pocket?
Yeah. So as I was purchasing that one, I snagged the book "Long Distance Real Estate Investing" by David Green. Yeah. That's still one of my all-time favorites. Great book. Such a tactical book. Like I kind of at first, I needed to do this stuff quick. So it's like I used it like a textbook. I went to the information I needed. I pulled it. I ran through the questions of how to interview, so and so, a PM, a realtor, all that stuff. Kind of get my core four in place. And so that was my main focus, because I was still doing everything from California, you know. So, and I had a high tempo at that time with my job, and so it was just tough on the management side of things. And so I was willing to take a big margin hit just to hire people to kind of take care of everything. But yeah, that was my my initial experience was just interviewing a lot of different people and hiring people that, now I can see clear as day they were never a good fit, but back then you don't know what you don't know, So I hired a PM that was just horrible. I had to fire her after maybe like a week. Same with realtors, same with kind of lenders that I no longer work with and that sort of stuff. But yeah, eventually found a really good property management company, like small mom and pop type of deal in Columbia, and they manage a good amount of units. But yeah, we were with them for 2.5 years or so. But 3 months later after that, 4 months later, so December of 2019, closed on the second duplex in that same neighborhood. So we kind of struck a niche in that market. And we ended up continuing to buy duplexes in that neighborhood and just run the burst strategy. That was a super effective strategy back then.
Yeah, I think it's also helpful. I mean, it's helpful for all investors, but especially when you're new, if you're clustering in an area, then you're building your own rental comp. So if buy another duplex and they're both 2-bed, 1-bath, like you already know what the rents are going to be if you upgrade them, or what they do if you don't. So you're kind of helping yourself, and then you can play off each other. If you BRRRR out and get an appraisal high, you can use that to boost your other ones. I love that strategy. I think it's smart, especially when it's cost effective and you already, again, now you're learning even more about the area. I think it just makes for smart. And honestly, from a numbers standpoint and accounting and people you need to hire, it's just more efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's economies of scale there for sure. With the PM, we need you to do a service call or whatever out there, and there's a few other properties in the same neighborhood. It's like just knock things out back to back and save on service call fees and stuff like that. But yeah, speaking to that appraisal part, that is something we immediately notice, where it's like, and I say we because I eventually brought in a partner, a guy I went to college with, still really good buddies today, and so we started buying in that neighborhood together. But yeah, we noticed that we're like, man, we can create our own comps, and so we can really dial in our numbers, and like we know our numbers to the T, because all the properties were pretty much on the same level too, as far as the renovations they needed. And, so we had a really dialed in strategy, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think it also makes you just a little bit of a more qualified buyer for the area, especially if there's a lot of people who maybe they read David Green's book and there's a lot of people coming from out of state. You already have one in the area. So you're trying to build on that portfolio. And then the more you get, the more people know, hey, they know what they're doing. They know the area. They're not going to flake out, as opposed to just someone first timing it from Ohio trying to get in there. Maybe that just doesn't look as good.
Yeah. 100%. Because we would, we would get letters every week for, out of state investors, like their direct mail campaign, right? Trying to buy our duplex that
right. You're like, I just bought it. Yeah. They're like, so stupid.
We have a good thing going here, guys. We're trying to ride this out.
Yeah. Well, we can just go to a quick bookkeeping note for them. That's wasted money, fellas. Like, you're not even vetting the list that you're sending. If they're mailing you right away and you just bought it, every time they send that, whatever your postage is just complete garbage, wasted. And again, that's something easy to figure out. But again, you build big systems and then go out. Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Max Emory. And if you want to get some bookkeeping help, you can take the Time Capital Bookkeeping Pricing Quiz. It just takes 2 minutes and you can do it at my link. bit.ly, and that's bit.ly/TC-Zen. Go for it, see what you've been missing, and figure out how bookkeeping can help take you to the next level. Let's get back to the show. One thing I wanted to touch on, which I think was interesting, when you were saying like you had to fire a bunch of PMs, fired a bunch of realtors, fired a bunch of lenders, that kind of goes to what you were saying before, the violence of action. I mean, you have to make some mistakes. When you're doing it and it's a big investment, you still want to hedge your bets, but that's why real estate is so cool. You're buying an asset that's sitting there. So, you can, if you make a mistake, and if you make a mistake in property management, just fire and get another one. But I think for people who are sitting on the sidelines, allegedly in analysis paralysis, which I don't think is a real thing, I just think it's a lack of confidence, they can take a lot from this, that like, hey, yeah, hired one, didn't like her, fired her, got another, didn't love them as much, but you learn something each time you go through. Did you find that that's helped you get to now where you're figuring out like, okay, these are the kind of checklists that I need to look for, and you know what not to do after you do it?
Yes. Yeah. And man, yeah, we can speak to a lot of that with some deals that we had that went way south. But yeah, the people side of this, yeah, I mean, it's, anytime you kind of build your criteria, or at least I built my criteria for like what I want in specific positions over time, and just like working relationships in general, we kind of have like what we prefer, what we like. Are they a big thing for the PM for me, because I'm at a distance, was the technology aspect and the communication. So like they had to be tech forward. I had to have some sort of portal, some sort of visibility to where I can see what's going on with these properties that I own. And so the first PM just didn't have that. She was super nice, and she was a go-getter, but she was also wearing a lot of different hats. She didn't have a team. She didn't have tech. And so immediately I was like, I'm so sorry, but like this, this isn't going to work after a week. It just wasn't the level of communication and like visibility that I needed. And so yeah, for me, it's, tech and communication are huge, especially if you're going to do something at a distance.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, there's just all those little lessons that you kind of learn as you're taking action, right? Like you have to be in the arena taking action.
Yeah, but one of those tough things when you're looking for your first property manager and you just have one property with 2 doors is you're just not attractive to the big property manager. I mean, they don't need, they have 911 doors. They're just like, you want me to just manage a duplex? So you're who you have to choose from is a much different box than when you get scaled up.
Yeah. And that, I totally forgot I did speak with a more like corporate PM in the area, and they service a lot of different areas too, like large company, very corporate. And that's essentially what they told me. They were like, the rents your one duplex is attracting just isn't super attractive.
Right. 2.5% rule is cool, but it's not big. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not going to be able to service that unless you're basically willing to just give us 100% of your cash flow, and then we'll take care of it for you.
Yeah. I mean, again, that, that's part of the learning curve though. So as you were scaling up with these units, when did bookkeeping start to play a role as you looked at your own, probably not that great bookkeeping, just like all of us along the way?
Yes. Yeah. It's like, what? It's like, are we making money? Like, I feel like we are, but I don't really know. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely started
the rent
with us.
comes in. That's good. We should be at, 2% rule, but why aren't we? We have no money to get another property. That's what you want to help with.
And it's like, I have this fancy property manager. They give me cash flow statements on a monthly basis, which is amazing. Like, it looks like we're making money, but we have the mortgage outside of that. We have a little bit of just general business overhead outside of that. We're trying, we have acquisitions costs to get bigger, and we have all this other stuff that's kind of our PM doesn't see, So it's like, we don't have any money in the bank account. So that's
very common though, right?
We need to know why.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
The solution to the kind of like uncovering, I'm sure, with all of your clients is it's very obvious why there's no money in the banking. It's exactly what you said. It's the rent is coming in one way, but there's a whole bunch of other things going out the other way, and nothing else coming in because only the rent's coming in, other than your appreciation, which you don't get unless you refinance. So it does make sense, but sometimes they need you to come in, clean it up, and show them like, this is why, because it's pretty obvious once you see it. Oh, right. We bought, we got a new furnace. So now we made no money across all 7 properties because that was $8,000.
Yep. Those capital expenditures, they're sneaky because they reside on the balance sheet most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. And so if we're just looking at a P&L, we don't see that $5,000 HVAC unit that we just had to get for one of the properties, So it's like, well, man, it looks like we made a lot of money in July, but I don't have any money in my account. So like, what's that about? Or the credit card bills are like massive. What's that about? So yeah, you need the full picture. The cash flow statement's huge, P&L, balance sheet. You need the whole thing. But yeah, kind of when it clicked with me, it's like, oh man, like basically every other investor that I knew at the time was also having the issues that we were having, where it's like, we just don't know. Now I sum it up to like, you don't know your numbers. Like, that's it. Like, it's super simple. Like, we didn't know our numbers back then. A bunch of other people didn't back then. And so just go into local meetups, with networking with other investors in California and South Carolina. That a lot of the troubles we would discuss with each other, I kind of summed up to, I feel like this all just goes back to bookkeeping. And, the bookkeeping is what produces our financials. And now we can look at our financials and see what's going on with the business. And so, it just all went back to that. And so I was like, man, like I've always been a huge personal finance guy. I've always nerded out on like my degrees in mechanical engineering. Like I've always nerded out on numbers in general. And so I was like, there may be something here to where I can, help solve this issue kind of for our real estate investing community. And so I mean, that's kind of how it happened.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking that we didn't talk about when we started with it was I would think that technology makes people think that they have things in order. It's like, well, your bank account is separated. They give you a year-end statement. It doesn't mean that it's correct. And it doesn't mean that it's maximizing what you're supposed to do. But technology makes it seem like you have it all in order because you get the statement. I mean, that's probably what I do.
Yeah. I mean, there is so much tech now with basically everything that we touch, and even QuickBooks. Like I see this all the time where investors will come to us, to the bookkeeping firm, and it's like, well, I set up a QuickBooks like a year ago, and so there should be some stuff for you to look at in there, but it's like nobody ever did anything with the QuickBooks account, so it's
it sounds like me.
It's just blank. It's just blank. So it's like, we're going to have to clean all this up and, kind of set that foundation for you. But yeah, I think people maybe have, I don't know, a false sense of security or something with all the tech. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's like a busyness thing. You think, oh, well, I have to hire someone, because when you do get a bookkeeper, it's not like you can't talk to them. You have to get everything set up. Once you get it set up, it's a well-oiled machine. They're going to ask you questions monthly. You just answer the questions. But like, it is a lot in the beginning because you need to give them access. You need to make sure all these accounts, and they're ask you about other accounts. It's a lot of things to answer, kind of like when you get one of those surveys, it's like, I promise it'll only take 3 minutes, and you click in and it's 90 questions. And you're like, oh, well, this isn't what I was looking for. So it does take really a partnership though, to have a good bookkeeping relationship, right?
It does. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And kind of how I mentioned in the beginning, like your entire financial team should know each other. Like we should be synced up, like CPA, even your attorney, like whoever's handling your entity structures and stuff like that. Like we like to be tied in with them, definitely with your tax pro or your tax firm or whatever it is. And then, because we all kind of work together to do what's best for you and help you make decisions. And a lot of that stuff starts with the bookkeeping. And pretty much all of that stuff affects the bookkeeping, even the entity structure on the legal side, like it affects the bookkeeping heavily. So the onboarding is, I have a line that I send to each new client that we onboard, and I double down on this, kind of in the process before that as well, where it's like onboarding is going to be heavy, and you're going to hate it. Like it's going to be the worst part of this for you. I just want to set that expectation. Like there's so much for us to go through here. I mean, each property is essentially like its own business. And then your entity structure ties into that, and you're running, this financial account structure, and you have like 20 accounts, and, so there's a lot of stuff for us to go through. So just, just have that expectation. And that's kind of, that's something that is specific to real estate investing. Like we've served other industries, and it's like, wow, this business has one entity, a bank account, and a credit card, and like it's incredibly simple. Real estate, it's just not that way, as you know. And the bookkeeping for real estate is very complex, which is why like 100% of our clients are real estate investors. Like that is what we do, because it's just so complex that's our capacity. Like we work with real estate investors, and we don't venture out of that. It's just because like you have to niche in real estate investing to be able to serve real estate investors, whether you're a tax pro or bookkeeper or what have you.
Yeah, and I would think it's great from your end because each investor can give you like ideas for another investor. Because like
Hmm.
real estate, every property is different. Something can come up new, and then you're like, wow, that would be good for, Bob. And then you have all these kind of new ideas always coming in, whereas they're one to one, but for you, you can get, a whole new scenario from somebody else on how they set something up or what worked for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'll just kind of like our organic service, I make myself like I have a whole like team of employees and, COO and everything, but like I make as a CEO, I make myself accessible to all of our clients. Like we get together, we talk shop, with like real estate investing, like
Yeah.
not bookkeeping, like literally just talking real estate investing.
Yeah.
And I have some of them ask me like, I know you have a lot of visibility into, all these other
Yeah.
real estate businesses. And so like no specifics, obviously, but like, just tell me like what's working for other people,
Yeah.
flippers, wholesalers, what have you. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of 100% of our clients kind of being in the same industry is we have a higher level of visibility in that capacity too.
Yeah, and I think the visibility from the employment sense I've seen from a lot of people who were, again, CPAs or they were involved in financial services, they see all their clients crushing it on investment properties. And then they're like, wait, I need to get the purple book. Like, wow, why
Yeah.
is everybody else killing it? And I'm just managing them killing it. So sometimes it can be even like, oh, actually, that's a good strategy. Like now I need to go out and get a different piece of property because of this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And, yeah, just as an example, I've been super interested in self-storage for years and I'm just like, you know what, like I need to focus, like I'm focused on my bookkeeping firm.
Yeah.
Like once I get back into it one day or whatever, like I'll exercise that. But I brought on a client, I think we brought him on this year and he sold all of his self-storage, but he used to own quite a bit of self-storage. Now I think he flips land, this year, but yeah, so I just had a long conversation with him about self-storage and
Yeah.
it's like, what worked, what didn't work. And he gave me some pretty crucial information. So, from the professionals, the financial professionals side too, like that's definitely a benefit of it as well.
Yeah, I always joke every time I like get off and finish a show. I'm like, why aren't I land flipping? Or why don't I have my own storage facilities? And I'm like, I only have this much time, but it's so hard when you talk to so many people doing so many cool things to not get like, oh, maybe I should get a mobile home park. You always have to like and it's the same for you because you're seeing like, wow, you're looking at these cash flow statements like from a mobile home park, and it's hard to then remember, okay, that's a high management business.
Mm-hmm.
Looks awesome, but you're also helping them operationalize it so it's good. And that's really part of this kind of marriage between REI and bookkeeping. Like the operationalization of your business is really highly dependent on your bookkeeping because you have to know what you can spend, where your holes are, what you're not doing well. And a lot of that just shines its light right through going through the books and seeing what's been there for the last year.
It does. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different KPIs and stuff that we can look at just for any business that exists. Right. And then there's ones that are specific to real estate, but yeah, it's, what each of our clients do operationally severely affects what we do on the bookkeeping side and how we collaborate together. And so like we are tied in, like a lot of our clients, we speak on a daily basis and that's not typical for like an outsourced type of bookkeeper. Right. And so, but it's just necessary for real estate. There's so many different things going on with all these different real estate investors and, they all do things a little differently. And so we try to help them operationally as well. And it's like, they're, whether it's good or whether it's bad, they're being sold sometimes some of these like overly complicated entity structures and stuff. And they're just not big enough for that.
You don't need 9 DSTs. Like you're good.
Yeah. So it's, a lot of them come to us about that, or they mention that, they're doing that with so-and-so attorney or whatever. And so we just super duper urge them to think about what that's going to do to their day-to-day operations. Like some of these people, they don't have a team to keep all that organized. Even something as simple as like, I'm going to go to Home Depot and I'm going to use the right card that I'm supposed to use. Like that's a huge issue that we see, commingling and now, they paid $20,000 for this, fancy entity structure. And And if you do something as simple as use the wrong card at Home Depot, it could blow up that entire structure. So
great. Another problem. Well, yeah, I don't have that crazy entity structure. Mine's just as messy as everybody else's. Let's talk about so for someone who is running a real estate investing business, they have a few properties, but they don't have bookkeeping. What's something that they should do in advance to kind of just get themselves prepped, knowing that, hey, I need to at least have something in order, because it's very hard to bridge the relationship. If you're just giving a box of garbage to someone, it's going to cost more, and you're not really set up to even have the conversation if you know nothing about what's in there.
100%. Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is just don't commingle. And so commingling your transactions specifically. And so commingling, maybe I take my personal credit card and I purchase something for the business on it. Or the more likely thing that happens is we take a business credit card or a bank account or whatever, and we purchase a personal thing on that card, right? So that at the simplest level, that is commingling. Real estate investors, we have a lot of different entities and stuff. And so, 123 Main Street LLC purchases something on its credit card or bank account or whatever that should have been under this different LLC, right? Yeah. And so now we have this commingling situation going on. And so for the bookkeeper, for the tax pro, anybody on the financial side, that creates a more complex situation, and it also that equates to a more workload. And so for the investor, we have to charge a commingling fee if an investor commingles, because it creates so much more work for our team. And so if it's extensive enough, we can't take the client. It's just too much. And so commingling, that's the biggest thing. The other thing I would say is just keeping organized documentation. So Google Drive, Dropbox, however you want to do it.
Nice. I finally did something right. Thank you. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. You're ahead of the curve if you have that set up and have it organized. So, at a minimum, the articles of incorporation for each entity, the entity documents have that for each property. The HUD statements, the settlement statements, whatever you want to call them, have those organized. You don't have to have your bank statements and, receipts. Some people keep those, some people don't. We encourage clients to keep those, but, it's not, we can't require you to do that, right? It just helps in the event of an audit. But yeah, if you have a way of tracking receipts, you're way ahead of the curve on that. But at a minimum, just organized documentation in some digital capacity puts you ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and be light on the commingling. That's what my commingling is usually just a mistake.
If that's the case, that's best case scenario for working with somebody. Yeah. But if it's kind of just a part of your daily operations now, that's where it creates a big issue.
Well, yeah, that must be an issue, especially for flippers, if they're just doing that's where I was very messy on some flips, because if I bought it and I didn't do a one-off LLC, or I didn't want to open another bank account, sometimes I would just be out, and there's no entity attached to it. I just bought it in my name. So you're kind of running a business under your own personal name, but it's messy. Because you look at Home Depot and you're like, I don't know if I got that fan for home or for there. So I have always been good about getting this stuff in Dropbox and marketing it. And so I think that's a really good advice, that even if you don't have a professional and you're not going to get one for 2 years, if you organize this stuff while you're going, put the bills where they're supposed to go, you're gonna save a lot of money when you go to hire someone, when they don't have to give you all these extra fees, which are deserved if you have it super messy.
Definitely. Yeah. It all just equates to workload. So whatever workload you're causing, for the person, that's the price is going to reflect that. But yeah, get in the habit when you go to Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever it is, that little PO box that they give you when you're checking out, just put 123 Main Street in there. That's a great start to start, getting ahead of this stuff. And, a lot of newer investors, you purchase properties in your personal name, and even seasoned investors, because you can get better financing that way. I mean, I've done that a ton. And so, even if you don't have any entities set up, just creating an extra checking account that's going to be just reserved for real estate, extra personal credit card just reserved for real estate, and just kind of keeping it separate that way. If you have a personal HELOC, just reserving that for your real estate activities, like that's going to keep you a lot more organized.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And it's best done when you're just getting started so you can stay on track. It's like, if you want to lose 20 pounds, you got to take one step, but no one wants to take the one step. But if you just took the first step the first day, you'd be way ahead of the curve, in 60 days. So I really think it's true, because once you're like a week behind in your own personal bookkeeping, like you haven't logged any receipts and they're in your email, or you forgot you had to log back into Home Depot and then print it out, you're just not going to do it, because you're like, it's just too much work. And then that too much work is going to be 3 years later, a bookkeeper trying to go through it and fix all of the mistakes that you made, which again, bad use of your money when you could have just had it on. I'm literally just yelling at myself because I've done this so much. I'm probably I'm in one of the best spots of my life, and I'm still messy, because it really is hard.
It's a lot. It's a lot, especially for real estate investors. Like it's just a lot to keep up with. Like you almost need a whole team just to keep up with it. Right. But for most of us, it's like, that's going to cut way into my margins if I hire this full-time team, and so that's the beauty of kind of, doing this outsourcing thing. Just having people work in a fractional capacity for you can be super powerful. So like that's what our firm does. That's what I know a lot of other firms in the real estate space too. We all network with each other. It's a small world. And so, they're all fractional workers as well. So, it can be really powerful for getting things organized and, having at a minimum, just having you have a less stressful tax season. Like that's kind of baseline what we do. Above that, it's like, let's start looking at some stuff on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis. Like let's start using the data we're producing for you to actually make decisions so that you can make more money and, not have to work more. Decision ready financials. That's what we want to get to.
Yeah. And I like the thought of fractional makes so much sense, but it's really like fractional expertise that you're getting, because now there's so many companies like yourself. It's like, hey, look, all we do is work with real estate investors. So like, you're just going to get that. And like you said, you just have to let all those people communicate together, because that's going to make your one big team without having to, hire a law firm who then, basically gets you subcontractors that do the work, when you can get all these subcontractors yourself with separate agreements and kind of work them together.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way to do it. And then also, if you're not going to hire people in-house, but just make sure you link all those people up together, and that
they're willing to do that. Because if not, they're not going to be a help. They're not really going to be part of your team.
100%. Yeah. They need to be a specialist. So in your industry, and they also need to be a collaborative, communicative person.
Yeah. Awesome. Before we hop off and get more information about your company, who's your ideal client? I mean, are there some people who are too big or too small for you guys? Or like when you're looking out there and saying like, the people that we want to work with are X, what's your best avatar if people out there are looking for help?
100%. Yeah. So house flippers and wholesalers, we don't have a cap on that. We haven't encountered a client yet that's too large, I would say. We have encountered some that I've turned away just because I don't, with their level of cash flow, I don't feel comfortable with them paying our fee, basically. But and then I just introduce them to someone else. But yeah, house flippers and wholesalers who profit at least $100K a year. And when I say profit,
those two need it the most. I mean like you're saying, if you're profiting that much, or if you're turning 50, 100 deals, like you better have your bookkeeping in order.
Yes. Yeah. So we're taking on a ton of house flippers and wholesalers. And, I'm not sure kind of the feeling towards that in the real estate space these days, but like the ones that we have, they're still doing very well in today's market. Yeah. So house flippers and wholesalers who profit at least $100K a year. And we will take some that are doing less than that. And obviously we'll take those that are doing way more than that as well. But that's kind of our sweet spot. But we also, we love our landlords, right? Like most of our flippers and wholesalers, eventually they become landlords, right? They start growing a portfolio. Exactly. Yeah. So we're super, I would say most of our clients are also landlords. So.
Yeah. Well, just in the fractional specialization thing that we're talking about, I really appreciate your answer, because I feel like the best people know that they have an avatar, just like you have a buy box as an investor. It's not everybody, because if it was everybody, you wouldn't be efficient at your business. So I think it helps people to know, like, hey, here's it. There's always some one-offs where it really works because they're going to scale up. They're close to being this thing. But I think that really helps. Is the best place for people to get information about you and your team at timecapitalbcs.com?
That's it. Yeah. Pretty much everything you need to know is there. And also I'm incredibly active on Facebook, just through my personal Facebook, Max Emory. Just go to Facebook, type in my name, connect with me there. I'm very active there. We're on all the other platforms too, but yeah, the website has everything you need. And if you want to connect personally, just go to Facebook and get with me.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate it. I like talking numbers. It's usually just me beating myself up the whole show about things I didn't do.
It's me too. Me too.
Yeah, but that's what you're there for. And that's why I think shows like this are important, because people have to know, like, my things are more in order than they ever have been. So I just feel better. But if they were even more in order, then I would have less stress and less worry. But also, as you really started with, more acquisition power. The more you get things in order, the more you realize when you can have more acquisitions, or how well your acquisitions are doing, or which ones are dogs. So yeah, I really think it's super important for people, and I appreciate your time.
I appreciate your time too, Jonathan. Yeah, dialing in on that top 20% is like what as far as like the types of deals and and acquisitions. Yeah, that's really what we're going for. But yeah, thank you so much, man. This was super fun. I'm honored to be a guest. Like I said before we started, I'm a big fan of the podcast, so I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, awesome. All right. That was Max Emory. You can find them again at timecapitalbcs.com. If you go there, you're going to see Start My Free Quote right on the front. So you got to get to it. Get working. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. Thanks for sticking around so you can get a preview of who's coming up on episode 291 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And we're going mobile home park syndications with WCG Investments. We're talking to Tim Woodbridge, and we're going to talk about cash flow without managing tenants, toilets, or timelines. It's a mobile home show, and they're always different. We'll see you next episode with Tim.